Hi everyone. Want to continue with my reflections and some things that I remember from my second year. And like I said, from second year, I actually have a lot of memories. I'm going to cover some of the impactful ones. So, the most impactful memory that I have from year two is I had working parents. So, like I told you, my grandmother lived with us. So she was somebody who kept me company all day. And year two, obviously, I was too young to go to, you know, school. Spent most of the day at home. What I remember most is my home was, I was surrounded by nature. So my parents lived in a bungalow, a very nicely designed bungalow. It was actually designed by um, a Muslim architect, and this gentleman had settled in Dubai or somewhere in the Middle East. And the house name was, I still remember, it was etched in Urdu in marble. It was called Fatima Manzil. And I always wondered what that was, but somebody said it was etched in Urdu, and then underneath it was also written in English. Fatima was his daughter's name. So I remember that as one of my first memories of the name of the home. And it was very beautifully designed, some very ahead of its time. So the one thing that was very different about this house, I think distinctive and different, two different things. Okay, what was distinctive was it had a facade that replicated bricks. Okay, it was not real bricks, it was actually concrete or limestone. And the house was built of limestone, it was not built of concrete back then. A lot of homes were built of that limestone finish and bricks inside, and there was no concrete that was used. It was a single level. And then the other distinctive thing was the facade itself, all pastel colors bricks. The nicest part was the front yard and backyard were huge. And the front yard had a garden of roses. It was not a structured garden. It was all wild roses, like planted all over. Just beautiful, something I remember. And then there was an entrance to the backyard, a long gully, and it had its own door. It had a separate entrance. Later on, I found out that the home itself had two entrances, because in the future, in case the owner decided to return from Dubai, they wanted the traditional entrance for Mardana, which is a main entrance, and Zanana, the female, where the female members of the household enter from the side. So that was something very interesting. And then the backyard of the house, it was amazing. It was all Shabad stones, they're called. They're basically like field stones, large stones. And there was a small room. It was not an outhouse, it was kind of like a separate room, not a shed, but it had an asbestos roof, but it was a proper room. And actually, it was a large room. My grandmother stayed there, and she would use the bathroom and all facilities from the main house. And there was so much going on in this backyard. So in one corner, my my mom and my parents had built a Tulasi Kota. Okay, so that was my absolute favorite place in the home, to go around and doing pradakshinas around the Tulasi Kota. Later on, when we expanded the home, they replaced that with a water tank. But before the water tank, there was a Tulasi Kota there. My grandmother and my mother also used to spend quite a bit of time there. She probably doesn't remember that, but actually, my mother is the one who got it built, and she would worship it, she would do the pradakshinas around it. It was very unique part of the house. And then there was a guava tree that was later on, many other trees were planted, but the guava tree I remember always being there. So my very first memory in that home or of my life, interestingly, is not of people, not even of my mother or father or grandmother. My first memory in life was just sitting on the entrance to the backyard, on the porch of the house that led to the backyard, sitting on the threshold and observing all the birds that came and sat on this guava tree. So patiently I would wait, because I had nothing to do. Like I said, my parents were working and I was only 2, so I probably had just learned to talk. And I would observe all these sparrows. There were hundreds of sparrows, hundreds. And these sparrows would not only sit on the guava tree, every single ventilator in our air ventilator in our home, there was a sparrow nest. And they would put eggs, and they would actually make babies. Sometimes the babies would fall off, and I could see like little. And then my mother was very kind towards animals and birds. She would place it back carefully. My dad would get very annoyed at all these, and he always wanted to clear them out because there was nests everywhere in the house. But my mother always kept them, did not allow my father to clear it out. And then there was a story, there was a Panchatantra story, or there was a story where the sparrow nests are everywhere and they invade the house. I felt as if somebody had seen our household and written that story. Because there are sparrow nests everywhere, including on the fan. So if the sparrow put a nest there, my mom wouldn't let my dad turn on the fan because the nest would get disturbed. So that way my mom is very kind towards life. So I would, back to my memory, I would observe all the sparrows coming and sitting there. And after they're all seated, I would say in Telugu, pichka, 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 pichka. I would run to the tree, like wanting to disturb them. And they all would rise up chirping, and they would fly away. Then I would again sit and wait. And then the sparrows would settle down. And like 15-20 minutes it took to settle down. And then after they settled down, I would again run to the tree and say, pichka, 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 and I would disturb them. And this was the game by which I entertained myself from 10 a.m. in the morning when my mother left, and all the way till left for work, all the way till 4 p.m. when she came back. In the middle, I had lunch break where my grandma would feed me something. This was when I was 2 years old. And the other thing I remember, and I wish I didn't remember, but in a way it's nice I remember. My mother was very much in love with nature and very close to nature and all things natural. So, of course, I don't remember what she did with my brother, but both me and my sister were breastfed till we were like 3 years old. So, um, I actually remember her breastfeeding me. And I remember that whenever my dad walked into the room, she would quickly push me away. But otherwise, she did it diligently. Poor thing, in spite of working and everything. So she always was a big believer in attachment parenting. Both me and my sister slept next to my mom and dad in the same bed for many years. Even when we had other rooms, at some point we only had 2 bedrooms, but eventually we had 6 bedrooms in the house. But even then, we did that for quite a bit till we were in middle school or so. So this was something I remember. Then another thing that I would look forward to is when my mom came home. So this is a memory that I have. She would always, and I was 2, I just begun eating. I think just begun eating solid food. Until 2, I was only on milk. So she would pick up an apple for me on the way. So I ate so many apples in my life that I started detesting that fruit. So I do not like apples at all. But more than the taste of it, it was a connection. I would look forward to her bringing home that apple when she came home from work. So that was what was 2 years old. But slowly into this backyard, we started adding other elements over many years, not when I was 2. Like I said, first, when we later on, when we removed that tulsi kota, and we when we expanded our home, we made it into a water tank. And in that water tank, we added fish, and we added 2 turtles also. From somewhere we got. They say the turtles are like bad luck actually for home, according to tradition. My mother didn't care. She really loved all animals. And then in the backyard, we made a cage for birds, and we had many lovebirds and parakeets. However, when I was 2, next to that, before we made the water tank, they took out the tulsi kota and they put they built, and I think they bought it somewhere. I remember, actually vaguely remember, not distinctly remember, them buying somebody was selling a pen for hens. My mom bought it. It was a 2-floor pen for hens. And we bought 16, not 20. Tiny chicks. Broiler. They were broiler hens. So broiler hens, they're actually meant for giving eggs, and eventually they slaughter them for meat. But we just had them for pets. And there was one country hen. So whenever these broiler hens, and there was one rooster also. Apparently there was one more rooster before I was born. My grandma used to tell me tales of how ferocious it was, and used to attack people, and eventually they had to kill it. But this was a different rooster. So there was one rooster, and the broiler hens used to lay eggs, but they were fertilized eggs because we had a rooster. But they were not interested in. They were not at all interested in warming the eggs and incubating them. They would toss over it and pick on them and all that. But this country hen was very motherly. So whenever those broiler hens all laid these eggs, these fertilized eggs, we would have a separate space for the country hen, and it would actually I don't know the word, I forget the English word. Like, it's not an incubation in a system. It would actually warm them up, sit on them and warm them up to get them all like fertilized. So the most wondrous moment of my 2 years was when those eggs actually became babies and I saw the little chicks hatching from those eggs. So that's an event I so clearly remember. And these chicks, these golden yellow chicks, because they didn't really belong to the country and they were not its babies, but it was just so motherly. So I learned many things when I reflect from nature that year. So the first thing I learned was, motherhood or motherly thing, it's not something biological. I learned that from that country hen, it's that nurturing quality. So if you see motherliness as a nurturing quality and you define it as that, and you take the biological aspect of it, you see how anybody can be motherly. Even a parent, or even a person who's never had kids can be motherly. Certain gods and goddesses can be motherly, and people who are sometimes older siblings, they can be motherly. Grandparents can be motherly. And interestingly, what I noticed is even some fathers can be motherly or some men can be motherly, because I understood the true meaning of motherhood and motherliness. It's more the ability to nurture something without an expectation of what that something is going to turn out to be, or and never having any expectation. That natural feeling of wanting to nurture and provide love and safety and this thing. And also I think with me remembering my mother, breastfeeding me or bringing me that apple every day, it didn't matter that she was, during the time that I was growing up, there were very few working moms. Okay, it didn't matter that she was not a housewife, or I don't remember her packing lunch for me, or ironing my clothes or doing any of those kind of things. But to be very honest, the amount of motherliness and nurturing that I experienced even from my working mom, how she would always, when she came home, the love and the care and the thoughtfulness that she exuded, I really feel that she's the epitome of a mother. And you can so much learn from nature. See, even in nature, the hen was looking after those eggs that were not, that babies that were not even hers, and she did it with so much love. So what I would say is, from my second year, lesson number 2 is stay close to nature. So because if anything natural can never be bad for you, whether it's the food you eat, whether it's we're all back to this organic stuff and all. Why it's close to nature. Anything natural, anything that you do out of your nature can never be harmful for you. And you have to learn that from animals, how they make babies, take care of the babies, know when to give them independence. Nobody's teaching them this, it's just coming. And there's so much we can learn from birds and animals around us that we don't get from a book. You know when to be there for your kids. You know when to let them go. You know, when the bird is ready to fly, the mommy bird just pushes it out of the nest. You know, it doesn't keep it to them saying, you do this for me and make me happy. You know, the mom and dad do whatever. You know, they go hunt, this, that. They kill other animals if they have to bring food home. So this is all instinctive. There's nothing to learn. They don't have a book. So stay close to nature and know that nature gives you a lot of lessons. And if you're ever confused about basic things, like look to nature. And if you want to put something in your mouth, put the most natural thing possible, if you can. I'm a big meat eater. That's not natural at all. But if you can, your sleeping habits, eating habits, rearing habits. So that's what I learned from my observations in my year 2. Okay, so tomorrow I'll talk about year 3. That's not so, that's something interesting. And talk to you soon. Bye.